Hi दोस्तों नमस्कार welcome to our YouTube channel Baji Rao IAS Academy. Today is 23rd September and we are going to discuss the daily Hindu newspaper analysis. So as you all know, before starting our discussion, we on the daily basis discuss some of the important prelims question. So here is the question and it is related to world geography. And when we talk about the world geography, it also comprises of the world mapping, and UPSC is very much famous for the asking of mapping question. So you should attempt, and it is related to the location of Black Sea, which is in Europe, and they are surrounded by many countries, straits, and you should first of all visit the map of Black Sea and kindly look what is around there, which are the countries associated with that, so that you have a clarity over the map. And nowadays the region of Black Sea is also so much in news. Why? Because of Russia Ukraine war. And even in 2023 UPSC paper, if you had seen, then a question was asked related to the Ukraine, like the land border they share with the other countries. So be sure that whenever these type of news which are in very much frequent, then you should locate on the map, and you should have a map book like one which is famous, Oxford a Student Atlas, and you should visit that book to find the location. This will enhance your power to grasp the mapping series slowly and slowly. Otherwise, this is not a one day task, and you should have to be continuous to decode what the map says and what is the importance of map. You will also see in the international relation as well. So please solve this question, and if you are able to solve, well and good, and if you are not, then don't worry, we are here to help you, and the solution will be provided in the last session of the discussion, and we will discuss in the great detail, including the map, including the streets, and including the location. Okay, and kindly also note the question is talking about which of the statement is not correct. So you have to select not correct option rather than the correct option. Okay, now shifting our focus to editorial discussion, and if you are liking our initiative, please do share with your friend and do promote and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, so we have in the discussion approx 3 articles related to the editorial and 1 article related to the prelims. The first article that will be discussed upon the recent issue which now is arising because of the Chinese authority denying our participants on Asian Games to China, which is happening to start in this week as well. So in retaliation, we are also responding to this issue. So we will discuss in detail, and the second article will be related to India and the great power contest in West Asia. Here we will see what are the developments going in the West Asia. Along with, we will see the recent launch of the Middle East corridor that will connect India with Europe along with the West Asia. What is the significance and what are the developments going over in the West Asia? Okay, and the third article will be related to the alternative dispute resolution mechanism, because recently Parliament had passed Mediation Bill 2023, and that Mediation Bill tries to provide alternative dispute resolution between the industry which are in conflict outside the court premises, so that we should have a speedy delivery of justice and a speedy resolution. Because in the case of industry, if any dispute arises that impacts the production, that impacts the relation, so to minimize that crisis, we should have a speedy delivery of justice, speedy delivery of the judgment. So here we will going to discuss about all these, and in the last we will discuss about the Black Sea, and definitely from here you will be able to answer the question as well. Okay, so now shifting to the first article, you can understand that the Asian Games which are going to start this week in China's Hozangho province. But what has happened here now, that three players from Arunachal Pradesh were also participating in this game. But when they started to go to the Hazangho province via flight, they were stopped. One player was stopped in the New Delhi airport, and the other two players from Arunachal were told that you have the permission to visit only up to Hong Kong but not to the China. So this started to raise the concerns that why China tried to does these type of actions. This is basically a bad scenario that is going to affect India China relation, and that's why we in the recent times also seeing that the Chinese issue and the involvement in these type of conflict is increasing. Like recently China had released this map, and where they reflected Arunachal Pradesh in their territory. But as we all know that Arunachal Pradesh is an integral part of India and will remain an integral part of India, that affects like India's sovereignty. That is a challenge to Indian sovereignty. That's why in retaliation our sports minister, which were going to participate in the inauguration ceremony, cancelled his visit and started protesting about these type of statements, like the geopolitical statement China does, despite this is a game and despite number of countries participate in these type of games. So this is a bad scenario, and we will see this issue in the coming days, because editorial and discussions will come and we will discuss in great detail. Okay, so friends, after the discussion of this issue, now we are going to discuss other articles. But before that, you have to attempt UPSC mains question, like the USA is facing an existential threat in the form of a China that is much more challenging than the erstwhile Soviet Union. You should know that before 1990, there was the existence of USSR, that was Soviet Union, where Russia and other Central Asian countries were the members. So there was very big bloc. But after the disintegration of USSR, the dominance of US was there. So now the dominance of the US is getting challenged by China, because China is rising at a rapid fire. And we are seeing the developments here and there, whether it is West Asia, whether it is Europe, whether it is the Southeast Asia or the Africa. We are seeing all these developments as an example that China is rising as well as challenging the US hegemony. So definitely how US will deal it, you have to answer it, and kindly give the examples so that you can substantiate the points of the question. That will be a better form to reflect your answer in a good way. So now shifting our focus to editorial discussion, the first article is related to GS paper 2, and that relates to our relations, bilateral, regional, global groupings. So first of all, before discussing, we have to look at the map of West Asia, so we have clear understanding about the issue that goes on. First of all, US and the West Asia has a close collaboration. In fact, when we see about the relations between Israel and the Saudi Arabia and the US, then there is a presence of US. But now US is withdrawing its presence, specifically after the US withdrawal from Afghanistan, the presence of US here is also decreasing. So when we talk about West Asia, you can see this is the region of West Asia. West Asia means what? The region which is western part of the Asia, and it lies between the African continent and South Asia and Europe. This is the West Asia, and there are many countries, but these countries does not have peace. They remains in conflict with one another. For example, Israel Palestine issue, as well as Saudi Arabia Iran issue, you well know. So these are the regions of greater conflict. That's why this region remains in news in frequent times and in frequent newspaper. So you can understand the location, and this is the West Asia. We have important country and powerful countries, Saudi Arabia, along with Yemen, Oman, UAE, Iran. All these are the country comprising of West Asia. And here you should note the location of some of the important water bodies like Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. And you should also know about some of the straits like Strait of Hormuz, Strait of Bab al-Mandeb. You should locate in the map. This region becomes also very important. So the region is looking good, but when it comes to the relation with these countries, the relations become bad. Okay, because these countries remains in conflict with one another. That is the important point to note. So we will discuss in detail about this issue. So when we talk about West Asia, there are three important developments which are occurring. First of all, rising China's presence, specifically after the US withdrawal over the West Asia, along with the US withdrawal, which provided the West Asian country as a security provider in terms of arms, in terms of amputations, in terms of security, and many more things. But now US is sidelining. Okay, and the third, because of US withdrawal, these countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, which was once upon a time were too much close to the US, now they are pursuing independent foreign policy, and here they are also promoting relations with the country that is not having good relation with the US, like Iran. They are trying to make relations with these countries. So these are the important developments going on. So when we talk about for the USA, the West Asia, which is a geostrategically important region where once upon a time US had a domineering presence, but now that presence is challenged by multiple factors, and one of the factors is China's rising presence in this region. Okay, so what is the USA approach to maintain its presence? First of all, the US administration, with related to the West Asia strategy to maintain its presence, has about two parts. First of all, continuing the Trump era policy where the US allies of the West Asia, they want to make closer relations with the countries like Saudi Arabia, with Israel, because historically these two countries remain in conflict. Okay, so US is trying to close this gap, and for this there is an important necessity for the US to be present here. Okay, and you can see the example how US has approached in dealing with this, like Abraham Accord, which was signed in the presence of US for normalization of Arab-Israel relation between the country of Israel and the United Arab Emirates along with Bahrain on September 15, 2020. But here you can see the Saudi Arabia is absent, and for any agreement and the decision to have a bigger impact, the role of Saudi Arabia becomes very important. So there is a one issue here. Now the another part which US try to maintaining its presence is like reassurance of America and its allies that US is not exiting West Asia by promoting various collaboration projects like we take example of I2U2. I2U2 is a groupings of 4 countries. Which country comes here? The India, the Israel, along with the UAE and US. So these groupings were promoted in 2021 so that economic integration between West Asia and South Asia should be done via providing economic and technological solution. And that also means that the role of India is also very important here, and US is well aware. That's why they try to include India in terms of promoting good relations in the West Asia. So that's why the I2U2 grouping, it has India in its presence, along with the recent conducted G20 meeting which was held under the presidency of India. Here there was announcement of India Middle East Europe corridor, okay, and that also signifies the growing role of India in this region, and also US is trying to push India in close partner while dealing with the West Asia relations. That is also important point. So when we talk about India Middle East Europe corridor, it is like railroad ship to rail networks and a road transport route that will extend across 2 corridor. Corridor means what? Like a way or a pathway that will connect the countries, okay, and one corridor is your east corridor that will connect India to Arabian Gulf. You can see here India, and it will connect to the Arabian Gulf country with some of the countries of the Gulf, and the another will be the northern corridor that will connect the Gulf to the Europe. So that meaning we have to use the shipping lanes and the railroad network for the connection. You should remember this. Along with this corridor will promote electricity cable laying down along with hydrogen pipeline along with high speed data cable. So there is multi-dimensional approach here to promote connectivity and maintaining presence of US and like-minded country here to curb Chinese growing presence. That is also important point. That's why one of the important indirect aim of this corridor is to curb the growing presence of China here, okay. And withdrawal of US does not mean that the strategic value of West Asia is decreasing. In fact, when we talk about West Asia, then West Asia comprises of huge reserves of oil, and world over the oil gets supplied from the West Asia to different countries including India, including China. But the US withdrawal doesn't meaning that the strategic value is decreasing. So on the one side the US is withdrawing, and by understanding the strategic importance of this region, the China on the another side is trying to build its presence here. And we can take the example like the China, now biggest trading partner of America's Gulf Arab allies, and also increasing its role as peacemaker, like we had seen an agreement of Iran and Saudi Arabia which talked about normalization of the relation, okay. And also how America is tackling this challenge, because America do know that the presence of China is increasing here, and for this they are making close tie with India, because with respect to India they well know that if we try to include India, that means we can have a presence here in a greater and a stronger way, because India has good relations with each country. whether it is historical, whether it is economic, whether it is the social relation. That means incorporation of India to deal with the challenge of growing Chinese presence is becoming important for the US. That is the point to note. Okay. And also the US deprioritization in the West Asia led to the West Asia's ally to Ottomanize their foreign policy. Once upon a time, the West Asian allies of the US were too much dependent on the USA for the arms, for the ammunition, for maintaining relations with other countries. But nowadays, they are talking about independent foreign policy, independent of US. So they are also extending their relations to those countries who once upon a time was not having good relations with the Saudi Arabia or the countries. Okay, so they are not now a client state of US. And you should understand the point here that when it comes to Iran, that means Iran and US has not good relation. And now when we talk about Saudi Arabia and US, they had good relation, but nowadays Saudi Arabia is making good relations with Iran. That means it will be not into the interest of US. And also when we talk about Israel, Israel and Iran also do not have good relations, and Saudi Arabia is also trying to build a relation with Iran. That means there may be the rising complexities in West Asia region. That is also becoming a geopolitical contradiction in US, in West Asia for the USA. Okay, but there is opening of multiple avenues for India. How? Because the US China competition in growing times for India, especially in West Asia, is opening new opportunity, and that's why USA is seeing India as an important partner to continue to shape the West Asia's geopolitics and the India's overall policy towards this region. That's why should be focused on multi engagement, that the relation is built upon from the past. Okay, there should be not unilateral approach to these countries, to these West Asian countries. Otherwise we can have effect in our relation. That's why we should focus and maintain our traditional balance that we have already focused from the past years after independence as well. That is the point. And now after discussion of the article, we are shifting to second editorial, that is related to GS paper 3. First of all, when we talk about the arbitration, what do you mean by arbitration? What do you mean by conciliation or the negotiation? So these all are basically tools for alternative dispute resolution. What do you mean by alternative dispute resolution? Basically, these are the dispute resolution process which are done outside the traditional court so as to minimize the time taken to resolve the dispute, as well as to promote efficiency, as well as to promote savings or the cost that gets indulged because of involvement into the traditional court. Okay, that is important point. And to promote the dispute resolution, alternate dispute resolution, we had brought many provisions into our legal system like Arbitration Act, along with the recently our parliament is proposing to bring Mediation Bill 2023, which has been passed from parliament, that meaning Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both. And now after receiving the president assent, the mediation bill will become act. So that is the point. We have talked about alternative dispute resolution, and there are 5 types of alternative dispute resolution. You have to understand the basic of that. Okay, and these are mostly used in resolving disputes related to the manufacturing industries or the services sector. Okay, and which are the 5 types of area? One is your negotiation, one is mediation, another is collaborative law, along with the arbitration, and the last is conciliation. So we will discuss in detail one by one what does it mean. When we talk about arbitration, meaning let's say the two party had a dispute. So here the dispute will be submitted to arbitral tribunal, and that arbitral tribunal, after hearing all the evidences and the matter, they will make a decision that will be called as award on the dispute, and that award will be mostly binding on the parties. Okay, so it means there is the possibility that there will be no right to appeal, as arbitrator's decision will be final. So there will be very much little scope for judicial intervention here, and maybe the right to appeal will be provided, but in a limited sense. That is the point of arbitration. Now when we talk about conciliation, so conciliation meaning it is a non-binding procedure where an impartial third party, remember, to solve any dispute there is a need to have a impartiality in the decision making. So that's why whether it is conciliator, whether it is mediator, the impartiality of the third party that will try to resolve the dispute is very, very important. So in conciliation, the impartial third party, that is the conciliator, assists the party to the dispute in reaching a mutually satisfactory agreement of the dispute, and the party here are free to accept or reject the recommendation of the conciliator. But if the parties do had accepted the settlement document drawn by the conciliator, it shall be final and binding on the both. It is also very important to note. Now the third alternative dispute is your mediation, and our focus will be on this topic only, because recently Parliament had passed the Mediation Bill 2023. Okay, so when we talk about mediation means what? There will be a mediator who will try to resolve the dispute between the party. They will provide solution, they will provide some ideas, and they will try to decode the problem and try to solve it. Okay, so in mediation there will be an impartial person called mediator that will help the party to try to reach a mutually acceptable resolution, and the mediator does not decide the dispute but helps the party to communicate some of the ideas, some of the solutions, so that they can settle the dispute themselves. So here mediation leaves control of the outcome with the parties, and here mediator only acts as mediator, not the solution acceptor. Okay, the solution will be accepted based on the consensus of the party. That is the important point to know. Now after discussion of the basics, we are coming to the provisions of the Mediation Bill 2023. For example, it will obligate each party in dispute to take steps to settle the dispute through pre-litigation mediation before approaching an Indian court, meaning the party in dispute have to approach the mediation before they goes to the Indian court. Traditionally, any dispute occurs, we go to the judiciary, we go to the High Court or the Supreme Court. But now, in case of this dispute, there will be an approach to the mediation. Okay, and also it requires the court and relevant institution to maintain a panel of mediators, and also there will be mediation to be ordinarily conducted by impaneled mediator, and that impaneled mediator should be neutral, unbiased, okay, uncompromising, and they must also complete the mediation within 180 days from the party's first appearance. And on the other hand, the act will not remove the refuse of Indian courts entirely, meaning if let's say that the parties are not satisfied, then there may be the chances that they may visit to the court as well. But there will be a very much restriction on this, because if there will be a free independence to visit to the court, then what is the importance of mediation? If settlement is not agreed, that means you have to approach the judiciary. Then the final goal of reducing the burden of judiciary is not achieved. That is the point you should note here. Okay, So there is also similarity between arbitration and mediation. And arbitration, there has been an act like Arbitration Act, but for the mediation there was no any act. So now Parliament is bringing this Mediation Act. So there is a similarity between those, like impose of stringent timelines for the conduct of proceedings, along with mandating confidentiality, along with obligate the Indian courts to refer the party to mediation or the arbitration before coming to judiciary. Along with, there will be a default mechanism for the appointment of a mediator or a arbitrator. And along with this mediation bill, there is a provision for the establishment of Mediation Council of India on the lines of the Arbitration Council of India. But this Arbitration Council of India still not has been established. Okay, so these are the certain similarity. Now coming to the main point, what will be the benefits? Okay, so the Parliament's message is clear that in the case of commercial matter like the disputes related to the industry or the services, court must no longer be the default venue for the dispute resolution. Okay, that is the point Parliament is trying to convey. But that does not mean that the door of the judiciary will be closed permanently. In fact, there will be a scope of judicial review on the judgments which will be delivered by the mediator or the arbitrator, but will be at the matter of last resort, meaning if all the door of judgment has been closed, then come to the judiciary. But before that, apply all other options which are available in the alternative dispute resolution. And India is already home to experienced arbitration institutions, so that will also promote at the global level the alternative dispute resolution mechanism in India. So there will be a various significance, like reduce the delay in the Indian court proceedings, and because of that there was increase in cost of litigation that will trying to come down, and also reducing the filing of frivolous claims before the Indian courts, along with mitigating the risks of deterioration of the parties' relationship. Because let's say any dispute occurred, that dispute gets reflected in the media and gets highlighted, that affect the relations between the parties, and there may be media trial as well. So to reduce that, there is a good scope in this alternative dispute resolution, where the solution is provided on a silent basis rather than the rather than the noise into the public. Okay, and it is more viable, economic and efficient. Along with it will also promote the availability and accessibility of a specialized expertise, because in judiciary there are expertise in law, but in terms of arbitration or mediation, the experts which will be very much well aware of the knowledge of the industry and the disputes, they will provide more elaborative solution. So that is the point, and that the article we have discussed. Now focusing our discussion on prelims rapid fire, today we are discussing on the Black Sea issue. So you have to understand that UPSC very much focuses on this map. So when we talk about Black Sea, you can see here that on the one side we have the Russia. Okay, you can see, and kindly also see important cities located here. Okay, so the Russia on the one side, and we have the Ukraine on the another side, and we have the Romania. Okay, and along with Bulgaria and along with Turkey. That is the important thing to note. So that is the country located surrounding the Black Sea. Now you should also look some of the river like Dnipro river. Okay, they are draining into the Black Sea, along with the river Danube here, which is also draining into the Black Sea, along with some of the marginal water body which is a part of Black Sea, like Sea of Azov. Here it is Kerch Strait located, and the Kerch Strait, or the strait, when we talk about, it is basically the narrow water channel that connects two water bodies. So when we talk about Kerch Strait, it is connecting Sea of Azov with the Black Sea. And here, after crossing Black Sea, you will see here Sea of Marmara. This is the Sea of Marmara we are highlighting in red color. So when we talk about Sea of Marmara, it connects the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea. Okay, and along with the Sea of Marmara, we have the important strait. And which strait is there? Like you can see here, it is Bosphorus Strait here, along with the Dardanelles Strait. Okay, so Sea of Marmara, we have the two important strait. One is Dardanelles Strait and the another is Bosphorus Strait. Okay, and you can see the capital of Turkey, Ankara, and the capital of Romania, Budapest. Okay, so you have to understand map like that. Where is Crimea? You can see here Crimean Peninsula, which has been annexed by Russia. Okay, so that is important point of the Black Sea. Now after discussion of this article, you can definitely answer the question. The first question statement is Black Sea is an example of marginal sea. Yes, we can see it is an example of marginal sea because it has been enclosed by some of the countries and the size is little bit smaller as compared to the original sea. So that is a marginal sea. They are enclosed by various countries. Now the second statement, the Black Sea is connected to the Sea of Marmara by the Kerch Strait. So when we talk about Black Sea and Sea of Marmara, you can see here Sea of Marmara is here and it is connected basically via Bosphorus Strait, not the Kerch Strait. Kerch Strait connects Sea of Azov with the Black Sea. That means this statement becomes wrong. And when we talk about the third statement, the Bosphorus Strait connect the Black Sea with Sea of Azov, this is also wrong because Bosphorus Strait connects Sea of Marmara with the Black Sea rather than the Sea of Azov. So we have discussed the question in detail. Hope you understood. That means the answer is the 2 and 3 only, which is basically the wrong option we have to select, not the right option. If the question has talked about the right option, we have to select option number 1 only. Okay, so that is the point and that is the end of this discussion. Hope you enjoyed this article, and if you are enjoying, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you friend, thank you very much for participation in the discussion. Please do share. Okay, thank you very much.